Fantasy 15.
Yes.
The story that will not stop giving, the delays that will not stop happening. Alexa Ray Korea, it has been delayed once more.
10 years in the making. What's 2 more months?
Yeah.
Right?
What is 2 more months? You didn't seem at all, put off by this. You were just like screaming into your palms for most of Monday morning, I guess.
Nope, sulking my way into the office. I don't know. I didn't expect that. I know a lot of people did, but I didn't. They've just been hammering on it for so long, and they've shown so much. And like from what they've shown, there was like the boss fight at E3, and they've had the 2 demos. They've been like showing story stuff, and they have the anime and the film. And I thought, all right, it's coming together. Like the film's coming out, game's coming out a month after. No. I mean,
it was I don't think there's anything wrong in assuming it was going to come out. They even had quite a large press conference, the ending of which was the release date.
Where they jokingly predicted when the game would be delayed till.
It stopped. So there was like a reel that had the months on it, and it stopped, and it went and it clicked September, October, November. For a beat, it was on November, and then it switched back to September.
So it's November 30th.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
So it's been
1 day.
Wow.
They predicted their own delay. Also, Greg Miller, when he brought the button out and he was like, it's delayed again. And Greg did it.
Hey, at least we can say we didn't leak the release date now, right?
The real release date.
We were just joking the whole time. November 29th is now when it's coming out.
Yes.
It was originally coming out September 30th.
Yes.
Is that correct? November 29th. Alexa, it's quite late in what we consider to be like the holiday season. That's right on the tail end, right?
It's the week right after Thanksgiving. So guess what we'll be doing Thanksgiving weekend, hopefully.
Did you plans to go home?
No, not anymore. No, but it's like just late enough that it kind of is like on the cutoff of like, does this get included in like Game of the Year consideration? Does this get included for the Game Awards? Does this get included in the GDC Awards? It's like right at the end, and everything's out already.
Yeah.
Except for like South Park, I think, is the only game coming out in December.
Yeah, it's the one big one that comes to mind anyway. That's the thing, I guess, is that usually all the big games, Peter, come out before Black Friday, it seems to be.
Yeah.
I remember working in retail, most of the big games seem to be out like first week of November, second week of November, and then like some on the third, but they were pretty much all out by then because so many people get their holiday shopping done. What do you think when you see a date like that? Is that too late? Is it this type of game that's going to sell no matter when it comes out anyway?
I think too late for Final Fantasy 15 came a long time ago.
Right.
This game has been a long time coming. I think anyone who's interested in it is not going to be swayed by, maybe some people, but they're not going to be swayed by like a new advertisement focused around the holiday season. I mean, they've been looking forward to this game for a long time. And there's been a lot of fanfare, like you mentioned, like a lot of events, a lot of announcements, and people have had a lot of opportunity to decide if they want this game already. And for as much as we want Final Fantasy, we think of it as this big brand, right? But mainstream people don't necessarily, I don't think.
Right. So it like plays to our generation probably quite a lot.
Maybe,
heavily.
yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is it's not like a Call of Duty, right? Where if people don't already like Final Fantasy, they're probably not going to get into this now. So they've probably already made up their mind. So I don't think that the date is going to make or break the success of this game.
Yeah.
Dobbsworth7 saying that Dead Rising 4 also coming out in December.
Oh, yes.
That is South Park.
Okay.
Christmas themed as well, so fair play. Alexa, so the end of November, how are you feeling about the game? Because obviously this is a game that yourself and Peter are big fans of the franchise. You've been covering it a lot over the past couple of years here at GameSpot.com. How are you feeling about it? When you see a delay like this, it's an extra 2 months. Does that make you a little bit more worried about the project? Does it make you feel like, hey, at least they're like putting that extra bit of polish on it?
So I'm always of the mind that if a developer realizes, from what I understand, I know a lot of people in game dev, making the call to delay a game is a lot of conversation between dev team and marketing, and it's a hard trigger to pull. So this decision was not made lightly. And if you need that extra time, like, good on you for recognizing that you need it and for taking it. And like, I would understand if they pushed out the game as is on September 30th and then had like a massive patch or something because that's what people are expecting. But to say that they want more time to deliver a better product, like, okay, like that's fine. Like, I'm still going to buy it. I'm still going to play it. I think it's good that they took the time. I am somewhat concerned a little bit less about maybe the quality of the product, but I don't know if you watched the message from Hajime Tabata, the director.
Yeah.
He looked like, so I've like seen him many times over the past 2 years. We talk a lot. He's like super ripped and is like a very healthy guy. And he like looks
Sexy.
and he looked a little skinny, and he looked really tired, and
he's like basically taken over this project a couple of years ago, right?
He took it over from Tetsuya Nomura, who's now working on Kingdom Hearts and is supervising the Final Fantasy VII remake. And like when Tabata was saying we've made the decision, and he was ramping up to the sentence saying we've delayed the game, and his pauses were getting longer and longer,
Right.
and he would drop his eyes and he'd take a deep breath, and I'm like, this decision was not made lightly.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I believe that team is like putting their all into it, and I hope that like they are okay like going into this final push. I know this has been like some people that have been working on that game have been working at it since it was Versus 13, so this has been the past 11 years of their life.
I mean, there's quite a bit of reputation on the line here.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
if
that
you look
too.
at games that have a rocky, they're technically rocky at start, be it frame rate or whatever, people sort of latch onto that, and that becomes the story. And if the story is, we waited 10 years for this mess, not
Right.
that I think the game is
Yeah.
a mess, but if they have anything to be concerned about, I cannot blame them for wanting to at least make sure they're delivering something that meets people's expectations.
It definitely seems like a project that's like a massive like uphill struggle, especially for somebody who decided to take it over. Like it's not
yeah.
even as if this was just some like, it's kind of like that, you know, in a way it's like a poison pill where I don't know, they have to make it so good to make sure that people get over that. So I'm not a massive Final Fantasy fan. I played a little bit of 7. I'm not really into the series. I remember I did a history of video years ago, and I had to get Mark Walton to write it because I couldn't even figure out all the stuff.
Was this the Escaping Mount Stupid episode?
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, 2-parter. Such is the breadth of Final Fantasy games out there. But I have been sort of interested in this because of the sort of more action orientated thing, or at least it looks a little bit closer to games that I do play. However, looking at the E3 demo, and especially I was kind of looking at you guys to your reactions of that, I was starting to get a little bit skeptical. So I think, you know, they obviously had a bit of a rough demo, perhaps because of some latency issues of the person playing it, perhaps because of the design of it. Do you think maybe this delay has anything to do with them looking at that and going, you know what, maybe we need to put a little bit more time into shoring up how this plays?
So that demo played like what it felt like to me is they took the boss fight from the game, they pulled it out, and Final Fantasy boss fights can go on for like hours depending
Right.
on how complicated they are. And these look fairly complicated if you're battling these giant monsters. And it felt to me like they took the boss fight out of the game and said, okay, we can't have people standing at demo kiosks for an hour. How do we make it shorter? Right. And they literally pulled out like phase 2 and phase 3 and this and that, and like go straight to the QuickTime event. It felt like they pulled all the elements out and just made it shorter. And I don't think that demo is indicative at all of anything that's going to be in the game. I think that was like, we made this especially for the show to show you how things look and how combat feels, and they didn't do a very good job. Maybe they were rushed under time constraints. I think this delay has everything to do with the fact that Peter and I were talking about this yesterday in the video. Tabata explains like, well, we could release the game, but with a patch. And the problem with the patch is they don't want to release a game with a day one patch because fans that buy the disc version that don't have an internet connection or a solid internet connection won't have the best representation of the game.
Right.
So they want to delay the game so that day one patch is like on the disc and like totally together. And that's the full package that comes out on the first day. I can't think of any other big Japanese games that do day one patches. That seems like a really big
Yeah, I was
Western
about to
thing.
say, a Western
is it a
thing.
Western?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I guess they just want to make sure that version.
I mean,
They're-
he
yeah.
explained, he detailed what a patch is in the video, as though
Right.
people watching it are like totally foreign to that concept.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of Japanese gamers don't necessarily have? I mean,
I don't want to generalize.
right. Who knows? Yeah. Big cities,
Yeah.
but then there are a lot of people who live, you know, further out into the country in Japan as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
maybe that is a reality over there as well. Okay. I mean, I thought we were done doing videos about Final Fantasy 15 being delayed. Hopefully now maybe we are. Final thoughts on this though. Peter, what do you think? What are your expectations of 15? It seems to me like a game that I feel like there are some games where people, they are happy to buy it, happy to play a game regardless of the reviews or first impression scores or anything like that. To me, this feels like a game that I think everyone's going to be looking for the review straight away to see how it went. What are your sort of expectations on Final Fantasy 15?
I think that there's going to be a lot of elements that are handled really well and that are surprising. I mean, a lot of Final Fantasy games, you know, live and die by their surprises, but also their storytelling. And so I think what I'm worried about is perhaps the writing. And maybe not so much the voiceovers, but at least the writing that's led to the lines of dialogue that I've heard isn't very creative or
Right.
believable. And if we're supposed to be following a troop of guys who really know each other very well, they should be able to mesh with one another. And I have not gotten that sense. Like the way that they play with one another, sure, but the way that they talk to each other,
right,
not so much. And so I'm really worried, I guess, about how the characters work together in the story. I think the more interesting story will probably be without the team that you're controlling. So I'm very optimistic, but I definitely have some concerns.
So Alexa?
I'm sort of bringing in another Final Fantasy 15 thing here. My review for the film went up yesterday. Kingsglaive comes out in theaters this week, end of the month on digital, and they did some really good storytelling with Kingsglaive. Granted, you kind of need to know what's going on in the larger Final Fantasy 15 universe to understand, but it was good, and like the dialogue was really good, and like the characterization was great, and the way that the characters played off each other, I really enjoyed, and that made me hopeful for 15's story because it's seems like 15's cast is quite large. The thing that I am sort of reserving any judgment on is the world and the world building, because we've only seen like the same 3 or 4 locations over and over and over and over and over. And I'm wondering just how big that world is. Like if you look in the footage that came out today, you can see kind of the edges of a map, but we keep going back and forth from like one city to another to like the Dusky demo, that region. We keep going back there, and then we keep going back here, and then we keep going back there. And I'm concerned about how big it is, because so many other Final Fantasy games, like 10 comes to mind and 6 comes to mind. Like you had like a giant world to explore with like an airship. So that's probably the last thing I'm a little reserved on.
Yeah, fingers crossed they're
but
holding
I'm very
back.
excited for it.
Yeah, well, hopefully you haven't got too much longer to wait this year. Final Fantasy 15 coming out November 29th.